Ever wondered how hackers automate tedious tasks like brute forcing and fuzzing? Today we will explore Burp Suite Intruder, the tool that makes these tasks efficient and powerful. So, by the end of this video, you will know how to brute force a login page and understand the magic of Intruder's automation. So, without further ado, let's get to it. First, it's important to understand Intruder's purpose and to know that you can check out this episode of my Burp Suite series. Now, to see Intruder's full capabilities, we first need to capture a request and send it to Intruder. Let's go very quickly to Intruder and see how it is without a request. So let's go to Intruder, and as you can see, it does not have much. So to learn about Intruder, we will use the following Portswigger's lab. This lab challenges us to identify a valid username and the password for a predictable account. So let's click on Access Lab. We go to My Account, and as you can see, we have a login page. We will brute force this login page using Intruder. Here's what we will do. We will insert a random username, so let's do it, user, and a random password, user as well. Now we will enable Foxy Proxy here, and let me just put this on the left side of the screen and Burp Suite on the right side. And we will go to Proxy and turn on our intercept. And we click Login, Advanced, Accept the risk and continue and resend. And as you can see, our request was captured. Now we can disable our Foxy Proxy and right-click on our request and send to Intruder. Now we can turn off our intercept because we don't need it anymore. Now we go to Intruder, and as you can see, we have here Intruder's subtabs. So let's see what each subtab does. We have these positions here, as you can see. The add position is used when you want to mark manually the parameter that you want to test. So for example, let's say that we want to test the parameter username. Then we highlight the value of that parameter, like so, and we click Add. Now we have the clear position, and this will remove all markers that you have marked previously. When we click on it, we no longer have user inside of those markers. We click clear all, and we no longer have the parameter user on those markers. Then we have the auto, and the auto automatically marks all potentially dynamic parameters in the request. So if you click on it, you will not only have the username, the password, but also the session cookie. Then we have this drop-down menu where we have all the attack types. And we have the sniper attack, battering ram attack, pitchfork attack, and cluster bomb attack. So the sniper attack targets one specific spot and it tests one payload at a time against that spot. If you mark the parameter username, let's do it, then the payload that we insert will target only that parameter. So it will try every word on the payload as the value of the parameter you have marked. So imagine that the payload that you inserted has a username like admin. Then this type of attack will try that value here on this parameter. So instead of user, we will have admin. Then we have the battering ram attack, and this attack uses the payload on every parameter you mark. So if you mark the parameter username and the parameter password, then the payload will be used on those parameters. Then we have the pitchfork attack, and this attack uses two payloads or more, and each payload is used for a parameter. So, for example, if you mark the parameter username and the parameter password, so let's mark the parameter password, you can use a payload for the parameter username, like so, and another payload for the parameter password. When you use this type of attack, be aware that the number of requests will be equal to the number of words of the smallest payload. So, if the username's payload has 10 names and the password's payload has 11 passwords, then the scan ends when those 10 names are used. Lastly, we have the cluster bomb attack, and this attack will test every possible combination of payloads. It's like testing all possible username-password combinations to brute force a login form. Now here, on the right side, we have the Payloads tab, and this is where you can insert your payloads. We have different types of payloads, as you can see on this drop-down menu, and the simple list lets you manually input a list of items. You can add each item of the payload one by one, as I did here with the 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can copy a list and paste it just by clicking on the paste, or you can load one file with the words that you want to use. We have the runtime file, and the runtime file reads payloads from a file during the attack, and it's usually good for large lists. Then we have the costume iterator, and this combines multiple lists to test combinations, usually good for username and passwords pair testing. Then we have the character substitution, and this creates variations of input by replacing characters. So for example, it can replace an A with an at. This is good to test password variations. Then we have recursive grep, and this extracts values from previous responses and reuses them as payloads. Then we have illegal Unicode, and this generates invalid or improperly encoded Unicode characters, and with this you can test for vulnerabilities in Unicode handling, like directory traversal or encoding issues. Then we have character blocks, and this generates repetitive sequences of characters, so it's good to test against buffer overflow vulnerabilities or input length restrictions. Then we have numbers, and this generates a numeric range, which is good to test pins, for example. Then we have dates, and this generates dates in a specific format over a specified range. Then we have brute forcer, and this creates all possible combinations of a specified character set and length. Then we have null payloads, and this sends identical requests repeatedly without modifying the payload. It can be used, for example, to flood the server with repeated login attempts, for example. Then we have character throbber, and this applies small changes to individual characters, like flipping cases or changing encodings, etc. Then we have bit flipper, and this flips specific bits in binary or encoded data. Then we have username generator, and this automatically creates usernames based on common patterns. Then we have ECB block shuffler, and this rearranges encrypted data blocks in ECB mode. Then we have extension generated, and these will append common file extensions to inputs. And lastly, we have copy other payloads, and this reuses payloads already being used in other positions. And lastly, we have the resource pool tab, and this is used to control how fast and how many requests Burp sends to a target. So it helps you avoid overloading the target server and keeps things running smoothly. You can set limits like how many requests are sent at once or how much time to wait between them. Okay guys, now that you know all these, let's solve this exercise from Portswigger Academy. So they give us a list of passwords, let me just show you. And we will use them to brute force this login page. Let's go back to Burp Suite, and let me just tell you that in this exercise we will use the sniper attack, and this is because it will be faster than using the cluster bomb attack. This is because the cluster bomb attack will test every possible combination of passwords and usernames which will take more time than just trying each parameter at a time. And because our list is very small, the sniper attack is the best choice. Also, we will be using the simple lists because the word lists that we will use are small, as I told you just now. Here we will use the simple list. I will remove these because we don't need it. Okay, first we will brute force the username and then the password, so let's do it. We will clear this because we need to brute force one parameter at a time, and first, as I told you just now, we will brute force the username, so we double click on it and we mark it with this. I already copied the usernames and passwords and I created two lists, one the usernames that they give us and the passwords as well. Now we go back to our Burp Suite, we load the word list that in my case is under usernames.txt and we start the attack and we wait a little bit. You can see the progress of the scan here below in this bar. Okay, our scan is finished, and before we begin to analyze the output, you should know about some things that can help you find something like the right name and the right password. First, you can look for the response length, because a different response length, like a shorter or a longer, could mean you found the right input. Also, you can look in the response content because you can see information that can tell you that you found the right input. And you can look for status codes because a status code like 302 might mean a successful login and that you were redirected to another page like the dashboard page. You should be aware of the length. A higher or a lower length is good, or you should be aware of the response of the request, so you go to response and see what's the response of that request, or you should be aware of the status code here. Okay, the first thing that we can look for is the request that has the higher length. So to do that, we can click here on where it says length and order our requests by length size. So here we have the request that has the higher length, and we click on it. Now we see the response of this request. Let's see. Okay, nothing interesting. Okay, we see that the password is incorrect, but we don't see that the username is also incorrect. Just to see if there is a difference between two requests, let's click on another request and see if the response is the same and it also says incorrect password or not. So let's click here where it says Carlos. Okay, so as you can see here, we have that the username is incorrect, which means that Atlanta is probably the username that we are searching for. Okay, guys, we saved this name, Atlanta. We can close this window because we don't need it anymore. We discard this, and here, instead of user, we will substitute it with Atlanta. Let's do it. Like so. Now we will do the same, but this time to the password parameter. We click on user, we mark it like so, and we remove this list, we clear this list, and we load the passwords list like so. And now we start the attack. Okay, and we wait a little bit. Okay, so as you can see, our scan is finished, and here we have the output, and we can do the same as we did with the usernames and see which is the password with a higher length or the lowest. So let's click on it and see. Okay, so as you can see, we do not have one with a higher length. So when this happens, we can see if there's one with the lowest length. So we click on it. And once again, okay, so here we have one with the lowest length. So we click on it and we go to response and see, okay, we do not have any response that can give us useful information, but you can see that we have a status code of 302. And this can happen when our login is successful and we are redirected to another page like the dashboard page. So let's try to log in with these credentials. So this password and the, let me see, the Atlanta username. So we go back here, we write Atlanta and the password is 112233. Okay, 112233. Let's see. And we are in, guys. Now we are Atlanta. And this is it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to this channel for more content like this. See you next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep practicing your intruder skills. Bye bye!